let's talk about empowering human AI interactions, prompt engineering for dynamic conversations. Prompt engineering is a new skill that involves designing effective prompts in structuring Chat GPT to produce the desired outputs. It can unlock the potential of Chat GPT and can save time and resources. And our speaker for the same is Ravi Kumar, Group Senior Vice President, NTT Data, who is an IT leader and strategic thinker. With more than 2 decades of experience in delivering large and complex technology-driven solutions across US, EMEA, and APAC regions. Please allow me to welcome Ravi Kumar, Group Senior Vice President, NTT Data.
Just checking the time. Good afternoon. How many of you are hungry? I'm hungry. All right. I know there are a couple more sessions after this, I guess. Let me start by asking a few questions. Session is about prompting, right? So let's prompt you a few things. How many of you are developers sitting here? Can you raise your hands? All right, that's good. How many of you are Python coders? I'm not going to come and ask for your resume. I'm just asking. All right. How many of you have used any sort of generative AI like ChatGPT? Wow, it's more than developers, which is good. And how many of you have used ChatGPT? How many of you have used any other generative AI other than ChatGPT? How many of you used Chat or any generative AI to actually develop your code? All right, good. Thank you so much, because this helps me to kind of set the context, and more importantly, you got an idea of what this prompt engineering is all about, asking the questions. But even more importantly, asking the right questions. Okay, asking a wrong question could cost you money. Okay, all of us have grown up, with our teachers and parents saying, there is no such thing as wrong question, right? Any question is a good question. Ask. We'll figure out later. I mean, that is the first step. That is a kindergarten question. Now things have changed. If you don't ask the right questions, it's going to cost you a lot of money. Anyone has any idea how much it's going to cost for a 4-letter prompt? Anyone has any idea? It's about a cent, 1 cent. That is $0.01. Okay? So now you imagine, add all the questions that you're going to ask, how much money it's going to really cost. A lot of money, especially if you got the questions wrong. Okay, so let's see if I can go to the next slide. Okay, little bit, one more, history. I'm an author. I'm not going to tell you what the book name is because it's not about my book. It took me 4 years to write that book, 4 years. Out of that, probably about a year, I was kind of just goofing around, trying, sleeping on it. But most of the time I spent on writing, rewriting, researching, all of that. Okay, if I had this technology, probably I could have gotten it done in less than 20 days. Okay, anybody who is thinking about writing a book, this is a great opportunity for you to write a book. But make sure that you don't have any copyright issues there. Okay, so but if you have the right idea, if you have the right thinking, you can write a beautiful book with the help of a generative AI. That is the power of generative AI. Just one of that, right? So now let's talk about what the industry is going through right now. If you look at it, what is that? Yeah, about 90% of the world's data was generated just in the last 2 years. Okay, so that goes to show the amount of data that all of us are producing, it's like, it's an exponential scale, massive. What it does is it also gives a base for an AI system to build its model on. Then about 97% of the executives report that they've been using some kind of AI in their companies already. They're making heavy investments in that, including all of us, all the companies that you represent. You guys and girls must be making tremendous investment in that. Okay, it makes this topic all the more relevant. Then finally, about 75% of the executives report that their organizations now achieving measurable results from their AI investments. This is a key. It's not about having a cool technology. It is about using a technology that to get an ROI that can justify the investment. Okay, so with this AI systems, if anybody is not using it, I think they're lagging behind significantly. So something for all of us to keep that in mind. Not that you don't know, but always keep it at the back of your mind. Now, what is the basis for AI? What is the underlying thing for the AI is all about rules. Okay, without rules, nothing works. AI is all about rules, input and output, and within that is all the rules that run. Okay, we started with machine learning just a few years ago. We were all thinking of machine learning as something that is the next invention after the slice of bread, right? Now imagine how far we have come along, just from that machine learning. Machine learning was basically a set of rules, stuff like that. Then we said, okay, now let's talk about thinking like a human brain. So that's where the neural networks came in. Now the next step is, just heard the previous speaker talking about LLMs. Next step is, let's make sure that the human languages are incorporated and all of that, so that you can think and speak the way you think, the machine can understand and can produce the result, so that the gap between the technologist and a non-technologist, a layman, reduces dramatically with the user when it comes to using the AI systems. So LLMs are so critical. Don't worry, nobody is taking away anybody's job here, but it is very important they should become part of our day-to-day life, so that the growth can be super exponential. All right. How many of you have seen Iron Man? How many of you like Jarvis? Cool, right? Super cool? Like it? So you can have your own Jarvis. That is your generative AI. If you look at these 3 steps, right? The first one, prompt engineering is all about human, right? You prompt the Jarvis, so-called Jarvis, right? You prompt, and the generative AI sitting there uses its massive LLM, the brain, to give you the response based on your prompting or your questions. That is the human AI conversation, I would call it, right? So all of us can become Iron Man with our own Jarvis. Think about that. It may for some people it may feel a little bit far-fetched, but the days are not too far, looking at the speed at which the AI is going. So why should we learn prompt engineering? Go to the last step. It's a garbage in, garbage out. You remember? I told you that you ask a better question. If you ask a wrong question, it will cost you. You may not get the result that you really want. So there are also other saying, right? If you want better answers, you ask better questions. Improve your ability to ask better questions. Prompt engineering is all about asking better questions. How do you ask your generative AI a question in a way that they can give you the best possible answer? Now, LLMs on their own, they do not really produce accurate or relevant results for the task presented to them. Okay, because I'll give an example. Say, ask generative AI to suggest me an exercise routine, okay, to keep myself fit. The result that you get, it'll have all the data, but the result that you get may not be really what you want. You say, give me an exercise routine for 30 minutes a day, and these are my health conditions. You are going to get much better response. So what I just described are the prompts that you can give so that you can get a better response that is usable. That is something that is very important for you. That's the reason, right? When I wrote this, it's a prompt engineering allows us to design specific inputs that guide the model to produce more accurate and more useful results. This is another example, very interesting example. You look at the standard prompting. Say you have a 3-year-old kid and you give this question. Okay, you also say answer, right? This is you're trying to teach your kid, right? Roger has 5 tennis balls. He buys two more cans of tennis balls. Each can has 3 tennis balls. How many tennis balls does he have now? Answer is 11. Ask the next question in the same standard prompt. Cafeteria had 23 apples. If they used 20 to make lunch and bought 6 more, how many apples do they have? Can anyone tell me how we come up with the 27? Anybody? This is a random number. Because kid only learned that, then our response is probably a number. It just gave a number. It need not be 27, it could be 46, it could be 0, it could be anything. So that is the disadvantage of a standard prompting. You give and you don't teach it properly. Now with a chain of thought prompting, you give a problem, you also explain the answer, then the generative AI will learn so that it can give you a better response, which is, in this particular case, answer is 9. Okay, so this, for me, if you look at it, standard prompting is like a layman, and chain of thought prompting is mostly all of you, technologists. Because all of us were technologists once upon a time or now, and we all think in terms of algorithms, logical thinking, reasoning. It's all about that, right? So, but compared to that, the standard prompting doesn't have most of that. It may have, right, but not necessarily the way the chain of thought prompting really works. So if you look at several models here, Lambda or PaLM, here what I'm trying to say is more and more parameters are built into the model, more accurate your results going to be, right? Does anyone know ChatGPT, GPT-3, what is the number of parameters that is trained on right now? How much? 175 billion. Absolutely. 175 billion parameters. What about GPT-4? 100 trillion is the latest answer we got. It could be more. With GPT-3, the kind of wonders that all of you are producing, imagine what's going to happen to GPT-4. It just changes the paradigm, guys, completely. It changes the paradigm of thinking. Okay, it is good and bad. Of course, we'll talk about the bad later. But see, the point is more and more input you give, so it's chain of thought prompting, and ask that based on the input it already has, the parameters that it's trained on. And if you add little bit more of logic to your questioning, you get a wonderful result. That is this whole prompt engineering all about. I'm not going to go through this because see, it's just different techniques. I'm sure all of you, some of you are already familiarized with. I've got a little bit less than 6 minutes now, so I'm going to skip this. So let's go to some of the examples. How many of you are from marketing here? All right. So for you guys and girls, prompt engineering is going to be a bone. Generative AI is going to be fantastic for all of you because it can generate your campaigns. You just give the inputs. Again, prompt engineering. If you give the right questions, it can generate a very smart canvas for all of you guys. Same goes with sales. Sales guys, how many of your sales guys here? Not many. Okay. So, but anyway, for the sales guys, this is beautiful because you want to prepare your sales pitch. Give the context, give the input that you think this is going to be that generative AI can use so that it can produce wonderful sales pitch for you. Which is, and let's go to design. How many of you have heard? How many of you have heard about the recent strike that happened in Hollywood? Yeah, some of you have already heard of that, right? This is the strike by the artists and script writers, because a lot of the the organizations have started using generative AI to get a better script than what the the script writers can do. It has created issue for them. So now, if you take one level higher, say there are a lot of artists, okay, who can who are very creative, who can create surreal images. He or she has got that in the back of their mind, but they're unable to really draw it. They're thinking they've got a lot of ideas, but it's not coming on the paper. So they can use one of the new company that has come up, right? And the tool, they can give that input. It can generate that picture for you. You give the input in the form of text, and it can generate a beautiful image. We have tested that. It works beautifully. IT, programmers use LLMs to find errors in code. I'm sure many of you are already doing it. And also generate code. I can also how many of you have done any reverse engineering programs? Right? You have got a code that is developed in COBOL, and suddenly you need to client wants you to regenerate the code in Java. It's not about just the code conversion, it's also about logic and database and all of that, right? How do you do that? Use the proper LLMs and also generative AI. It can generate the code. It can completely transform your COBOL code into Java code. Just giving it as an example. Operations, classic example. How many of you are from IT services here? All right, good. The biggest challenge for you is the resource allocation, people allocation, right? You have people, you don't have the matching projects. You have projects, but you don't have the. I mean, it's a constant battle all of us go through. If you can use the generative AI to do a proper mix and match, but again, prompting is very critical. You can't say that, no, I've got these 5 people, give them the project. It'll give you whatever. It's a standard prompting. Instead of that, you say, these are the skills and, this is the years of experience, these are the things that, that we're really looking for. Then it can give a better match. I'm just giving that as one example within operations. There are a lot of other things, where you can optimize. So that's our standard at the beginning of the year. Always the focus is on optimizing operations. Generative AI can optimize it tremendously. Finally, developers, you can write your prototype code and implement complex systems. So the example is all the UI UX engineers, right? Imagine the amount of time that you guys have to spend, not only to kind of conceptualize it, design it, and create your wireframes and prototypes and all of that. If you have a bot like a Turing bot, it can take away some of the mundane work of creating your wireframes and stuff like that. It can do all of that, right? So that a UI UX engineer can be better deployed, better utilized. The productivity can go through the roof, 500, 600, 700%. Because suddenly instead of working on one project, you can be working on 10 projects at the same time. So these are some of the examples that are available to us. That I'm I'll say like tip of the iceberg. Okay, it's you can keep on talking about. We need to probably create a master class to talk about all of these things in depth and see how do you personalize it for all of you. Okay, for the Python programmers, here's an example. Say you have a Python code. You know it is buggy because your compiler keeps on throwing up error after error, and you don't have time to really fix it, right? You give it to an AI system like a Copilot, right? You put your code like this, right? Fix bugs in the below function, buggy Python, and paste your Python code. It will fix it for you. What is the issue here? These are the characters like A and B. They didn't put the string, right? Put a string attached to that. It knows, generative AI knows, where to fix the damn issue. Makes it easier. Amount of time it can save is mind-boggling. These are some of the examples that I can talk about. Finally, I've got 20 seconds, but let me just leave you with some food for thought. What are some of the risks associated with generative AI in general? Has anyone experienced issues with the deepfake or encountered? Think about that. Okay, it can ruin a person's life. It can ruin a person's life. And imagine the copyright infringement. I talked about it, right? If you're writing a book, if you don't give the right prompts, generative AI can copy somebody else's book and give it to you as your book. Be careful, okay? So you want to research a lot on that. And phishing emails and social engineering, I don't have to talk about that. The number of spams have gone through the roof in the recent past. Is all because of that. And one last thing I want to tell you is when we are using generative AI, you don't really think about what is the environmental cost associated with that, because you don't know where exactly is this data stored, how much of electricity is getting really used, how much of carbon dioxide emission. All of that, if you think about it, it has got a huge impact. Just like your cryptocurrency mining, it is very similar to that. It is a gas guzzler. It consumes huge amount of power, right? This is something that all of us need to be very aware of. These are some of the risks that I can think of. Something for all of you to think about. And of course, disinformation and propaganda in this age of, especially in the political environment currently, all parties are equally contributing to this disinformation, propaganda. I don't know how many of them are using generative AI to kind of create this misinformation. There is one last thing. How do you know whatever generative AI gives you is the right information? Think about that. You have to verify in some form or the other. So if somebody is thinking that, no, my job is under threat, no, your job is not under the threat. It is just that, some of the mundane work can kind of can be passed on to these AI systems, so that you can start focusing on higher value activities, including verifying what the AI system is giving you is right or wrong. Recently I was seeing, talking to one of my friend. He said, when you get the output from generative AI, you say, what is your source? Give me the source. He'll give you the list of all the sources. When we clicked on some of the links, it didn't work. So it makes you wonder, where is this getting the information from? Hopefully, with the kind of parameters that are being fed into the next generation of AI, like GPT-4, it could be other systems as well. Hopefully, things will improve a lot better. But it's a huge opportunity for all of us to really take our elevate our game to the next level. We can be, you can really make this whole generative AI work for our advantage, but at the same time, beware of all the risks that are associated with that. I didn't even talk about the cybercrime, cybersecurity issues. That should be at the top of everybody's list. All right, so that's all. My time is up. Do you have any time for questions? Nope. All right, great. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Ravi. And can I please request Akhil Gupta, CEO, Total IT Global, to felicitate Ravi Kumar for the insightful address. Thank you, gentlemen.